And so, Baltimore became free, and Equestria was saved from destruction. The darkness receded, giving way to the sun. And the city shined on the eve of dawn, the first one in this century. All three equises, as well as the dimensions of Limbo and Tartarus, were finally protected from mutual destruction by each other. The project Mayday has started working, restoring the boundaries between the three worlds. His magic shine with hope, lighting the way for years to come, as is the hope of the pony after whom he was named.
The self-proclaimed princess fell after being defeated by a group of brave Baltimore ponies. She broke the lives of not only their loved ones, friends, relatives, and themselves, but also the whole city, keeping it at bay for too long. Consumed by her own pride, she lost the battle. They gave her a chance at redemption, and now she faces an eternity of reckoning for her deeds.
The princess, imprisoned in the chain of technology of the single Pegasus project, bitterly watched 100 years of tyranny arranged by her once beloved student. Without the opportunity to turn away, she grieved for every bloodshed, for every tear shed through the fault of her dear, sunny student. After the liberation of the city and the overthrow of Shimmer, she was able to breathe a sigh of relief. But the guilt for what she had done could not leave her heart, and yet with all her might, Celestia hoped that now the Baltimore ponies would be happy, basking in the rays of the warm sun.
Over the next few years, the Q was recovering from losses in the last battle. Help came to them from where they were not expected. Former enemies became allies. The Grand Pegasus Enclave stretched out its hoof, offering to create an alliance between them. The Pegasi were very interested in the scientific potential of the organization of scientists. Pony of the Q agreed, but at the same time defended their independence. The Q finally managed to completely clear the city of Equestrian Infectoria. More precisely, its improved version, which was made by the Enclave in the middle of the last century, commissioned by Sunset. 3 years after the Battle of Baltimore, the Reaper handed over the reins to his daughter, Daydream. In Pony, who always looked like an enemy in the eyes of others, but at the same time was in fact the most reliable friend. Trident, who prefers to be called the General Director of Q. The General was able to get rid of Decline's essence, but she had already changed him enough to make him a different pony forever. A pony that others have begun to respect. With the help of friends and family, they led Pony of Q forward.
The Q continued their activities until the appearance of Red Eye, a native of the 101st Stable, offered Baltimore an alliance in order to obtain their technologies and production facilities, thanks to which his goals would be achieved within 1 year, not decades. The synths he could take to his hooves would replace thousands of slaves for him, and the Q's technology would help destroy anyone who dared to resist. But the Baltimore ponies refused him, not even letting him in the doorway. When Red Eye formed an alliance with the goddess, Baltimore had to close its borders again by launching the Dawn. The emissions from the towers reliably protected the city, giving a strategic advantage to his ponies, who tried in every possible way to prevent the Red Eye from realizing his plans to capture Equestria. With the help of QB, they hacked his sprite bots, preventing them from spreading their word on the wasteland. The ponies of Shadows were an undoubted competitor to the goddess Alicorns, in no way inferior in their abilities to psionics. When the goddess and Red Eye were defeated, Baltimore reopened its doors to the world. Ahead, the Q was not the last role in the history of the Equestria Renaissance.
Having been cleansed of the essences of the ministry mares, to which they were tightly chained by Sunset from a very young age, the heads of the Baltimore factions were able to gain freedom from the shackles of other ponies' mistakes and start all over again. After uniting them before the Battle of Baltimore, these 5 friends were no longer separated and did not go against each other. Trying to resolve all difference is by talking and supporting each other.
Dragon came to the aid of Sluggish Rain with his petrels, replacing his gloomy reflection serpent. The griffin appealed to the historical pride of the vultures, and they heard his words, trusting, as to their new leader, that spreading wings enveloped in solar flames led them forward. Griffins occupied one of the central places in the hierarchy of the city, becoming its reliable defenders of order. Sluggish himself retired from management, taking up the gradual restoration of the airport, and preserving all the heritage in it that remained from the past. Although he was called to the Enclave, he still remained loyal to the city and his friends.
Mare, together with her synths, took up the work of restoring the city's production facilities. Baltimore, growing stronger after years of famine and bloodshed, gradually began to grow and become more densely populated. Synths helped to clean and restore buildings, build new ones, and put long-neglected factories in the city into operation. 15 years later, a small but new ship appeared in the port of Baltimore, which became the first built after the war. There were still many ponies in the city who were skeptical, but the synths gradually began to be accepted in society, respecting their work, which the cyborg mare was incredibly happy about.
Schlam and its bulldozers continued to fill up farmland within the city limits. The very next season, after the cleansing of Baltimore from Equestrian infectoria, the crops gave the first healthy shoots. The city was able to breathe a sigh of relief. No more ponies will suffer from hunger. In the future, Baltimore even began sending caravans with humanitarian aid to the nearest cities available for trade, including Huffington. One day, he finally found out the truth about Doubledecker's death, and was even going to take revenge by taking Frost's life. The life of Pegasus volunteered to defend Hexabucker, who offered an alcoholic battle. As you might guess, the winner is the one who can overdo not only the boss, but also any other alcoholic in Equestria, especially after several liters of moonshine, drunk from a glass sledgehammer during the Battle of Baltimore. After losing, the Schlam eventually relented, forgiving and letting go of the past.
Bit's coin was happier than anything else when the city's factions began to establish ties, especially trade ones. The entrepreneurial Apple streak could not drain from his blood even after cleansing from the essence of Applejack. And Bits became one of the main bigwigs that raised the city's economy. To be honest, even without the increased income, it was nice to see the city shine again.
What happened to the strangest of their group of ponies? Codger Blank was the only one of his friends who refused to let go of a piece of the pony of the past from himself. When Codger's name was cleared of all dirty rumors, the Earth Pony took on the job that Pinkie Pie could only be proud of. Codger started throwing parties for every pony in town that needed it. Having found a magical, almost living house among the buildings of the old commune, enchanted by the great magician Maya's Mo himself, Codger turned it into a party house, the doors of which were open to every stallion, mare or foal.
10 years after the Battle of Baltimore, and after Stryker's retirement, Dayline became the new elder of the Steel Rangers, the first among the unicorns, and although he still looked at the world around him naively and with sincere hope, he always had family and friends around him who were ready to support him in all difficulties. Not everyone accepted such a drastic change, maintaining the conviction that only an Earth Pony can be a true defender in armor. But they remained in the minority while the rest went forward, eager for changes in the ossified organization. Toaster thieves, as the Reaper jokingly called them. With the arrival of Dayline to manage the Steel Ones, the organization began to recruit not only Earth Ponies, but also unicorns, Pegasuses, Griffins, Kirins, and even a couple of Kelpies into its ranks. Having borrowed power armor for unicorns and Pegasus from their sister Daydream from the Q, the Steel Rangers of Dayline began to represent a motley gang that stood in another strong stronghold of protecting the city from anybody who would like to come with evil intentions. 1712, there are rumors that Dayline met personally with another unicorn elder, cottage cheese, who cut off his horn in order to become a knight. Just wonder what his reaction was when he found out that it was possible to simply improve his helmet and not sacrifice a horn for this. The Rangers of the Baltimore branch tried to get in touch with their other units. Unfortunately, for the most part, they remained misunderstood. They have remained loyal to protecting and helping the ponies of the city, rather than searching for and capturing the technologies of the past. The oppositionists, generated by the Steel Rangers who came to the surface, lost the meaning of their original name and became just another part of the United Baltimore. Over the years, the boundaries have erased, and the long-standing feud between the Steel Rangers, the Baltimore 5 leaders, and the Q groups has been forgotten. Alliances grew, and friendships grew stronger every year.
With the release of a group of immigrants from the 86th, which forever changed the fate of this city, the Stable 86 opened its doors to the world. The stable ponies joined the Society of Baltimore and shared their stocks of recycled provisions with the rest of the city until the Equestrian Infectoria issue was resolved. After the departure of Sunflower Scream from the post of Overmare and returning to her home world, the first of the stable Overmare, Nightingale, who came out of cryo, sleep along with the rest of the ponies of the past, took her place again. Gale was reunited with her husband, Verpondo, and daughter, Ponferrada. They also adopted Frostimtai into their family, who carried the essence of fur and was very similar to fur with Ponfi, and whom the whole city wanted to wean from occupying the pillars. Famer, who left the realm of icy oblivion, missed all the most interesting things. The fall of False Dawn, the fall of his most devoted pony, which with the help of Essence became literally his copy and saving the world from distraction, which he and his cult so aspired to. Unable to find a purpose for himself in a new, changed world, Famer made his way to the Q and escaped from the world through one of the mirror portals. He was never seen again.
After a long journey so far from home, Starless returned home to the Crystal Empire. The war with Kolos that had begun was still going on. But now, thanks to the Default Project, the developments of Parabola and the Q, the ponies of the Crystal region had an advantage. In addition, she received another proof that not everything that seems dark and gloomy is necessarily evil, and in fact capable of a much stronger love than many could not have imagined. After her return, Tundra told Everpenny about what she saw in Baltimore, about the shining city, about the shadows in it living in harmony with ponies, about the wonders of technology that the city hid deep within itself, and that in the future could be useful to all Equestria, but for now they must be firmly preserved and the friends she will be to remember with warmth the long years of her life.
2 years later, after the Battle of Baltimore, after the Dawn was transferred from total protective isolation to its usual radiolocation tracking systems, and the path to the rest of Equestria was opened, Trident left the city among the first to explore the equestrian wasteland that he had discovered. The agreement between him and the general stated that as soon as Philly Joom grows up, Trident and his daughter will be sent to one of the distant worlds so as not to disrupt the newly established balance between the worlds near by each other. That's just it. Something went wrong and Trident and Destroy Joom found themselves in completely different worlds, separated from each other. Will Trident be able to leave Beerland and reunite with his beloved daughter? That she had already managed to grow up, get into the Unidine Psychiatric Hospital, escape from there, and become a bounty hunter. Will they be able to remember each other through the years, and find themselves through an infinite number of worlds? Maybe one day, but that's a completely different story.
As soon as the noise of the war subsided, Adar, who regained the memory of the years spent in captivity in the Q, and adventures with Garen, Apple Blender, and Incident, went in search of new adventures. After leaving the city, he went to look for his new purpose in a business that the old cyborg Griffin could occupy himself with. On his wings, he carried the story of the shining city that waited for every law, abiding pony enough to give him the warmth of his hope.
After leaving the Crya, sleepy realm, the old captain settled in the territory of the opposition. Unable to find a better recognition for himself, he began to teach the young and fools everything he knew. He especially liked to spend his evenings telling the youngsters about the unprecedented legends from his voyages. The oppositionists, who dearly loved all kinds of tales and stories, warmly welcomed Procker into their hoofs. No matter how hard Procker tried, he could not find out what happened to that young pony who collected his diaries and notes. The clay just disappeared, leaving behind only questions and no answers. Periodically, the captain heard the whisper of the sea waves on the verge of hearing, calling him to set sail again. But the deafness made itself felt. The captain lived his last years in serene tranquility, and left under the lapping of the waves, sitting opposite the sea in an old rocking chair, carefully covered with a warm blanket by one of the oppositionists.
Catharsis, enlightened by the magic of rainbow ice and the birth of their fifth, with Shard, a foal, stopped with his wild lifestyle. The main thing in his life was still entertainment and friends, but he no longer ran away, taking responsibility for his past mistakes. His wife and children took the prodigal father back, hugging him tightly, which only made him cry more sincerely than ever before. Gradually, he restored relations with his brother, the Reaper, or declined with difficulty, but was able to remember such a dear pony to him, and they forgot all the difference is that remained between them in the past, ready to move on. Catharsis gave his brother a pink Cadillac so that he and Day could go on their own journey through Equestria. Together with Hexabacher and Codger Blank, Catharsis has performed more than once at the Everpenny Theater, with a show of barriers, circus, and jokes, as well as tricks that Cat taught Miasmo. And every time these performances took place, the hall was full of ponies who wanted to see them. Years later, the Catharsis remained the same, and even after several centuries, he continued to play the pony, as he and Declane had once done in their university years. Shadow Locke, however, did not appreciate the joke with the blown-up toilet bowl for the 100th time.
When the threat to her world receded, laughed, or left Baltimore and completely settled into her world, preserving and multiplying it. Over the years, from a small swamp, the world has grown to endless swamps filled with a wide variety of life and vegetation. The Cormiaver, who continues to work at the factory on the night shift for a soft couch and a plate of fish, walked between two worlds, connecting them with an indissoluble bond. After becoming Cerberus, Laftror was given a new responsibility to be the keeper of the gates to Tartarus. However, Pinkie Pie's clone, who was the current ruler of the Tartarus dimension, did not force her to work incessantly, letting her decide how she would do her duty. Having replaced Drobigal, laughed, or settled down in the coolest, quietest, and most peaceful place in Tartarus, in the town of Lost Souls. Among the rest of the tombstones, swamps and lost ghosts that quietly whispered their stories. Occasionally, she still looked into the world of the living, checking if the Cormiaver was all right and if he needed more ointment for his peeling skin. Old friends were always happy to see her, even though she never stayed long when she remembered how noisy it could be around ponies sometimes. On one of her visits to the city, Love discovered a huge rat hiding in the sewers. Somehow she reminded her of an old, lost friend. Having named him the same as him, she took Rat, Clay with her, settling him in her world, where there was finally a place for him.
For many years, Dragon maintained justice among his fellow soldiers, who from simple robbers ascended to those who are truly true to their word. Under his guidance, the Griffins perked up and were able to be proud of themselves again without the need to prove it to someone by force. He also helped Daydream, whom he saw as his niece, in the management and establishment of politics in the Q and Baltimore itself, helping to rally him. With his help, the city was linked by the bonds of trade and friendship so tightly that it seems that no threat from the outside can destroy them. After finishing his business and making sure that things were getting better in Baltimore at some point, he set off on a long journey along a lonely, dusty road scorched by the heat of the sun. The road led the Griffin to the north, where he again met with the tundra. The Confederation welcomed the Griffin cordially, and her ponies were genuinely surprised. Every time they saw Dragon also went up to him to warm her hooves. It seems that he has already taken for granted that ponies like to bask in him and even more like to light cigars. The Winged Lighter, as some have nicknamed he, and the Griffin really was it. He continued to travel and ignite in the hearts of others the warmth of meeting him and the flame of justice. Tired of the cold of the north, Dragon went to other places. He did not forget about his home, often contacting Catharsis or Daydream. Learning the news and providing useful information, the travelers who met him told tales and stories about the Phoenix Griffin, who carried on his wings a message of order and justice to this world. And not only that, rumor has it that he reached the point where Equestria was engulfed by the chaos of Princess Eris, who personally gave him his long, lost second Zenith pistol. And although the details of that meeting are not known, many casino visitors talked about meeting the fiery vulture in the roadside casino of chaos more than once, playing cards on a handful of golden bits, the Q coupons and amber stones, and then walking away with a bottle of Amber Delight whiskey to someone's penthouse.
After the last battle, Dusty, who suffered the devastating effects of the mutagen on her body and implants, took a desperate step. Such operations have never been performed before, and Dusty's operation was the first and successful one. After spending many hours on her body, the best doctors and scientists at the Q were able to save Dusty from implant rejection. As Dusty promised, she returned to the Q and destroyed all her designs, which she was not proud of. With a clear conscience, she destroyed all the remaining electric chairs on the forced euthanasia floor. And soon, this department of the Q was completely closed and transformed for peaceful purposes. After taking their children out of the stable, Dusty and Darvis settled into the city hall. Darvis took under his wing the mayor's, a small army left behind by Delight, who returned to his home world. A platoon of several dozen ponies were trained by Darvis in the art of repairing weapons and repairing armor. Darvis and Dusty also did not forget about the Q, where they also helped from time to time. Darvis oversaw the development of new types of non-lethal, but effective weapons aimed at peacekeeping. And Dusty helped with correcting what she had done during these long, difficult years for everyone. She participated in helping cybernetics who had their implants rejected, and in essence labs in order to save those who fought every day to continue being themselves by sunset. A year after the Battle of Baltimore, the couple had 2 more foals. Dusty and Darvis lived their old age together, supporting friends and each other, surrounding each other with love, until the last sigh filled with happiness from their lives.
Hexabasher, also known among family and friends as Shosha, was reunited with her family. Having lived to a ripe old age, Hexabasher left on a sunny day, surrounded by family and friends who promised her they would definitely meet in the next life. And although she never aspired to eternal life, and always remained a simple pony who loves a good drink, she forever continued to live in the warm memories of Shadowlock and their children, as well as grandchildren and great-grandchildren, who passed from mouth to mouth the legend of a simple pony that helped save the shining city, Baltimore. Shadowlock always remembered that special pony red as the flowers of a summer poppy, who taught him the kindness and beauty of simplicity. Cherishing fond memories of her, Locke continued to help his children and simple ponies, without changing himself and still continuing to be the spirit of dusty books and old libraries. However, after life returned to normal, he discovered something new. At one point, he even worked as a teacher at the restored Baltimore Academy, enlightening young minds with the light of knowledge. And especially, he began not only to read other ponies' books, but also to write his own. Dedicated to their beloved Shosha, their difficult path that they were able to walk together and overcome all obstacles. A book was also published under his name, telling about all the events and how the city was able to regain its lost light. Babin continued to lead Quebec Red for a long time, supplying Baltimore and subsequently not only him with products from his mother's magical red barriers. Flo helped both her brother and the Q scientists who were researching ways to travel to other worlds, this time with all care and maintaining a balance between them.
When Baltimore became free and the Project Mayday was launched, Day and Duck finally reunited, promising each other never to be separated again. The nightmares of the pain they had lived and the horrors they had endured haunted them for a long time after each sunset. But together, they were going to cope with everything that was in store for them. After all that has been done, this no longer seems impossible. After the end of the war with Sunset, Reaper led the Q with Day for several more years, trying to correct and atone for the mistakes of the False and his own. Having prepared his daughter, Daydream with Day, the old unicorn transferred the care of the Q into her hooves and retired. Despite this, he continued to help Dream from the shadows, continuing to be overprotective at times. Over the years spent in the warm embrace of his beloved mare and surrounded by the ponies he loved, Decline began to look more and more like his old self. However, the Reaper still continued to live inside him, manifesting himself when necessary. Freed from the shackles of Dawn, having spent these decades silently observing the city, Mayday knew from the very beginning what she was going to do to help the city shine. And Baltimore really shine, reunited with their grown-up foals, Daydream and Dayline. Mayday and Decline finally settled into the strong family they had dreamed of for so long. Sometimes they thought about having more foals, but all in good time. Making up for lost time, they spent several more years together, helping to take care of the city and the ponies in it. But with that, their life was just beginning. Long-awaited years of freedom and love awaited them ahead. Decline, like a pony of shadows, could live for millennia, and Day, being like a radio wave, could never stop broadcasting. Now they were the only ones who decided their fate, and no one else could stand in their way. When Baltimore came to order and shine, illuminating the entire east coast of Equestria with its light, they decided that it was time to take time for themselves, and left Baltimore, to spend the rest of their eternity together. Never be alone again.
After the restoration of the space, all the guests went to their homes. Delight returned home, telling the ruler of that Equestria, Stygian, about all the events that had happened, and that now not only that Equestria would breathe easy, but also their own. After Mayday started working, it was much more difficult for Princess Eris to interact with other worlds, create chaos in them and steal other ponies' magic. Despite this, it seems that something has changed in her. We will never know if it was because of her deal with Day, or something else was behind it. But Equestria and the dominions of chaos were even able to come to a shaky, seemingly temporary, but truce in their long war. As for Delight, the mayor is a loser who never became mayor in his hometown, for which he was able to hold this post for more than 1 year in the neighboring world. He has finally found his long-lost love. Once upon a time, his day had to erase his beloved's memory of his disappearance and of their newborn foals, with the sole purpose of saving his beloved's life and protecting him from threats that she was rushing after her tail faster than she could run. It was only after Eris, his rule assumed a strange gentleness and justice, that Day was able to leave the hot southern territories and reunite with her husband.
King Sombra, the ruler of another seemingly dark version of our Equestria, supported, together with Stygian and the Reaper, which finally became fully possible thanks to Mayday, a united interworld Equus alliance, and although only a few ponies and shadows knew the secret of the interaction of the three worlds, they could all count on each other's help in difficult times, in case of a situation that they could not solve alone. After all, what else do you need reflection friends who will understand you like no one else? As in the case of Delight, Deadline has found his day, and besides, after learning that all these years he had not only a beloved daughter, but also a son. Back in the 20s, when Deadline had just become the head of Parabola Industries, competitors kidnapped his wife, along with their unborn second foal. After many years spent in captivity in the far north, under the tyranny of the evil version of Princess Cadence, Day and her son were finally able to return to Mixami, to her husband and daughter, who had been waiting for her for so long.
After finishing their business in the queue and Baltimore in general, handing over control of the city to friends and their children, Mayday and Decline were finally able to go on a trip to Equestria, taking an old, but such a native pink Cadillac. They set off on their way to find out the fate of their native places, ponies once familiar to them, and relatives who have become distant. In order to begin again, their first stop was a city near the Great Salt Lake City. It was necessary to make sure that the connection between Falls Dawn and Solar Prism, the two sunset shimmers, was forever severed, and Falls would not be able to return through it. They had further plans too, and Decline wanted to finally take Day to his homeland, Seedle, show the city, and help the ponies in it that also needed it. And also to meet one of their mutual old friend. There were other reasons, with the help of the Six Sigma mainframe, a secure system that contained all the personalities and memories of Six Sigma and Parabola Incorporated employees. Decline was going to regain the memories of his youth and years spent in Seattle that he had lost in the Shard. And then, maybe they'll head to the Crystal Empire, as Day suggested, maybe to Detroit to find out what happened in Day's homeland. Or maybe a new day will come, and we will even see them with our own eyes again.
By the end of May 2100, Seedle was seething with its own passions related to the despotic rule of the immortal machine, once known as Starlight Glimmer or Star Glare, which she called herself while working at Parabola Incorporated. An old friend, Fullrust Crunch, along with the mainframe Securit, which was created by Six Sigma at the request of Solar Prism, led the resistance movement to the totalitarian Glimmer regime, but for now, they were just sitting at the bar, rejoicing at the victory of their dearest friends in Baltimore.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. You wanna go where people know people are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Seedle was going through its toughest times in its entire history. Glimmer was hardly better than Sunset. A ban on bearing a name, a ban on cue cards replaced by 2 stripes, a ban on opinion, love, friendship, and fate. The ban on that, to be a pony, the latest generation synths created by the local Q facility, indistinguishable from real ponies, replace the living ones, depriving them of their jobs and place in the world. Teaming up with a group of new heroes, Crunch and Securit are going to give the last battle to the corporation, which has brought so many problems in countless versions of Equestria in this and other worlds. Another war. For freedom, for dreams, and for hopes for a bright future for ponies. Some things have to stay the same. War never changes. And Baltimore, the city that shines forever.